let's talk about what was, quite possibly, the most dangerous job in all of history: being the Roman emperor. It wasn't all just power and parades. To rule Rome meant you were living with a giant, lethal target on your back 24/7.
Okay, so picture this. It's AD 41. The Emperor Caligula has just been stabbed to death by his own bodyguards. Total chaos. And the first reaction from the powerful Roman Senate? Well, as the historian Josephus tells us, they didn't really mourn. Nope, they saw an opening.
And right there, in that moment, you see this massive gap between the elites and, well, everybody else. While the senators are fantasizing about bringing back the good old days of the Republic, Josephus says the average Roman was absolutely terrified. They were thinking, oh no, not again. They feared another round of bloody civil wars and the Senate's legendary greed. They wanted another emperor, and they wanted one fast.
This really gets us to the heart of it, doesn't it? We know emperors got assassinated, we know there were plots, but just how serious was this opposition? And if you were the one wearing the purple toga, who was the real threat you had to worry about? The people in your own palace? The senators down the street? Or was it someone else entirely?
Let's start with the most terrifying threat of all, the one that was closest to home: the people inside your own palace walls.
Here's the truly shocking part. The very men who were paid to protect the emperor, the ones who were supposed to take a spear for him, they were so often the ones holding the knife. I mean, look at Caligula. Both Suetonius and Josephus tell us the whole conspiracy was led by Cassius Chaerea, a top commander in the Praetorian Guard. Talk about a true inside job.
So why'd he do it? You might think it was all about high politics, right? Restoring the Republic? Well, according to Seneca, this was deeply, deeply personal. Apparently, Caligula had humiliated Chaerea for years, constantly mocking him for being effeminate. Goes to show, an emperor's insults could be a fatal mistake.
But, the emperors could play this dangerous game too. Just look at how Emperor Tiberius handled his own treacherous bodyguard chief Sejanus. Cassius Dio tells the story. Tiberius basically lured him into a trap, dangling promises of more power, even a marriage into the imperial family. Then, boom, a surprise letter is read to the Senate, exposing the whole plot. The new guard commander moves in, and it's all over for Sejanus, a total masterclass in political takedowns.
And listen, the danger wasn't just from your guards, it was from your own family. Josephus and Tacitus both point the finger at Agrippina for allegedly slipping her husband, Emperor Claudius, a poisoned mushroom just to get her son Nero on the throne. And what was her reward for all that? Well, according to Tacitus, Nero later had his own mother executed for plotting against him. In that palace, you really couldn't trust anyone.
Now, let's step outside the palace walls, because an old rival was always there, simmering with resentment: the Senate.
The Roman Senate, let's be honest, never really got over losing its spot at the top. For decades, under the First Dynasty, they were just a hotbed of anger and conspiracies. You had a real mix of motives. Some senators genuinely dreamed of bringing back the Republic. Others were just driven by raw personal ambition. And a lot of them were just plain furious at having to bow down to one guy.
And what's so fascinating is who got involved in these plots. Take the big conspiracy against Nero, which Tacitus describes in detail. This wasn't just a few angry old men in togas. It included Praetorian commanders, a famous poet, an admiral, and even a formerly enslaved woman. It just shows that when an emperor became unpopular enough, the opposition could come from literally every corner of Roman society.
Now, emperors had different ways of dealing with this. The very first emperor, Augustus, faced a bunch of plots. According to Cassius Dio and Suetonius, his response to one plot was swift and brutal: arrest and execution. End of story. But Seneca tells us about another plotter, a senator named Cinna. Augustus did something totally different. He pardoned him, made him a consul, and turned an enemy into a close, loyal friend. Just a brilliant political move, showing how a smart ruler knew when to use the sword and when to use a handshake.
But yeah, that kind of mercy was rare. The paranoia these plots fueled was absolutely terrifying. Under Tiberius, hunting for traitors basically became an industry. Seneca, who lived through it, wrote that the treason trials killed more Romans than any war had. Suetonius even claims 20 people a day were being executed at one point. And yet, for all the blood spilled in the city, this still wasn't the thing that could bring the whole system crashing down.
For that, you had to look to the frontiers. Because for all the daggers and scheming in Rome, the truly existential threat, well, that came with the sound of thousands of marching feet.
Think about it. A senator could plot, a guard could stab you, but only an army could truly overthrow the entire state. The ultimate nightmare for any emperor was a popular general, way out in a province, commanding legions of loyal soldiers, who one day decides, you know what, I think I should be emperor.
Nero's fall is the perfect example of how this worked. It started with the rebellion in Gaul, as Cassius Dio tells us. Then the governor of Spain, Galba, joins in and his own troops declare him emperor. And it's only then, once the armies started moving, that the Senate in Rome finally got brave, declared Nero a public enemy. And, as Suetonius tells it, Nero was forced to take his own life. The army. They were the ultimate kingmakers.
Okay, so we've covered the palace, the Senate, and the army. But what about the millions of ordinary Roman citizens? Their view of all this was often completely different.
The people of Rome could definitely hate an emperor. Oh yeah. When the deeply unpopular Tiberius finally died, Suetonius says the mob went wild, screaming, "To the Tiber with Tiberius." They literally wanted his body thrown in the river like a piece of trash.
But here's the paradox. They might hate the man, but they actually liked the system. Josephus, writing right after Caligula's death, is super clear about this. The people wanted emperors because they remembered the bloody chaos of the old republic and they saw the emperor as their shield against the greed of the senators.
And when a real tyrant like Nero finally fell, the celebration was incredible. Cassius Dio paints this vivid picture of people just pouring into the streets, wearing these special felt caps, the very symbol of a freed slave. Their judgment was just as powerful as any decree from the Senate.
And some emperors, well, they returned that contempt in full. You want to know what Caligula thought of the people he ruled? Cassius Dio records his horrifying, infamous wish that the entire Roman people had just a single neck, so he could slice through it with one blow. A chilling reminder of the chasm between the ruler and the ruled.
So, this brings us all the way back to our big question. If you were sitting on that throne of knives, who was the real threat? The ambitious senator whispering in the shadows? The trusted bodyguard standing at your door? Or that powerful governor with his legions? As we've seen, every threat was deadly, and each one required a completely different response. Maybe the real challenge of the job wasn't just surviving, but knowing who to pardon, who to purge, and when to get very, very nervous about the sound of an army on the march.